holding it?
No, the magnet doesn't work. I've already lost one of the magnets.
Oh, don't lose a magnet.
No. So,
this is chaise longue time.
Chaise longue. Should we become comfortable with each other?
Yeah.
In intimate space. So, really kind of the purpose of this is that with the Employment Right Act, as what was Bill, not Shakespeare.
Yeah. The other act.
Yeah, the other act. There's quite a few things changing, and there's quite a bit out there at the minute, which is, I think there's a tricky part of it in terms of there's a lot happening, and there's still quite a bit of confusion around about what we do. And I would say that I've probably had a real hatred for HR people in terms of saying doom-mongering with this.
Oh yeah, doom and gloom.
Yeah.
The end is nigh.
Yes, and I think I suppose kind of to start with that, kind of where do you think we sit with the whole ERA, ERB at this moment in time? Kind of, what's your kind of?
Well, I think what's interesting is it's happening, and it's happening imminently. So I think 12 months ago we were thinking, well, we'll see whether it comes into fruition, and now it's real. And some of the changes that you have to make are quite small. Some of the implications are quite large, and I think my apprehension is that employers won't react quick enough and could trip over things and end up creating unnecessary liabilities because they're not getting there fast enough. So I think now it's real. There's a bit of a wake up to it.
What the hell type thing. Yeah.
What about you?
I think I agree with that. I think there's the small bits and there's the big bits, and I think there's a real people are kind of not panicking, but there is a real tension with people in terms of they're quite frustrated it's coming, and they're almost fighting against it. And there's going to come a point where you kind of go like, yeah, I get you frustrated, but it's a bit sort of JFDI at this moment in time.
It is because. If and when the claims come,
don't be first.
Yeah. You don't want to think, I wish I'd called my HR advisor.
But I think to your point in terms of like the small bits and the big bits, and I think there's some stuff which is in there which seems more scary than it is. So I always think about the informing people of their right to be in a union, which really seems to have shook a few people. Which I think actually that's really quite simple in terms of what we do, because it's the bit where you just have a policy that says, yeah, you know what I mean. If you want to personally have a union membership, that's fine. We'll support that. If we get to the point where we've got collective bargaining, or union recognition, should I say, we'll do we'll then do whatever we need to do as per obligations at the time. We're not against unions. Big thumbs up.
Yeah.
And then the other part of that is within offer letters, you just have a line in there to say, we won't stop you from being part of a union. If you're a union member, fine, but we don't recognise anyone in particular at that moment in time. I think you can minimise that as an issue. Yeah. I think there's quite a few things that you can minimise.
Yeah, I think so, but it's in organisations that old templates get used. Handbooks, policies, contracts, it's updating them in all those places. Yeah. And having processes to check those minor updates is where you can really trip over something.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be interesting. And I think it's things like we were talking about sexual harassment and settlement agreement templates, and how often have we just said, oh, well, let me find one of my old templates. And now, of course, sexual harassment will be classed as whistleblowing, not discrimination. So therefore, your protection clauses at the back are wrong. They need updating.
Yeah.
But it's so easy to use an old template, and that's where you could end up not having sufficient protection if you don't currently get the latest advice. And I think that's where it's just really important to be sharp to what's coming.
Yes.
And aware of those deadlines. So, for example, I've been thinking about, everyone's saying, right, January 2027 is when 2-year service dismissals now become 6-month service unfair dismissal rights. But actually, it's not January we need to be prepared. It's June.
Yes. Well, it's before June, to be fair, because actually...
Well, June's when it's relevant, right?
Yes, yeah.
So, but you need to be preparing before June.
Yes.
But I think, depending on how much you're reading as an employer, you might be thinking, it's January.
Yeah, and I think that's where people are going to get caught out.
Yeah.
And I think because obviously it was announced the week that kind of, if you've got 6 months as of the 1st of January 27, you will be covered by the the right to raise a claim. About you got full employment
For unfair
right.
dismissal, yeah.
Yeah. And that is I'm bang on board in terms of like, oh my god, that's a big change. Yeah.
It's a big change.
But I also don't feel people have got fair warning for it either.
No, and I think it presents all sorts of challenges, and we've talked to clients who've said, but it might take 6 months for someone to learn how to do their job, and actually that means you're going to have to make some big calls on people early doors.
But I think
possibly.
That's out the window. And to your point, like, we've always had our tension about probation periods.
Yeah, never going to agree.
No, we do. So I think we sort of do.
We do.
We do. We don't.
Yeah, we do.
But I think the point for me is that the obligation to make that, to get your recruitment process right, and not to be a passive person. Because again, the amount of people we speak to where the interview is literally, have you got arms, legs, and a pulse? You know, and it's, are you a human? And then we'll go, you know what I mean? We'll see. And you just get them in, and you think, and the viewers are very much like, if it doesn't work out, we can bin them off after 6 months, after a year, and we only need to issue notice. I think that attitude has got to be a massive shift for people. It's going to be, you've got to invest more at the front end. Like I'm a big advocate for, again, depending on the role, but spending as much time with people as possible, challenging them, but not in an aggressive way, but actually, you know, think about, actually, does this person actually fit in my business? You can develop the skill piece, but actually, if after, you know, once we kind of get beyond the small talk and the niceties, do they get us and do we get them? And I think that's the big thing, because if you're not on top of your probation period and don't recognise that soon enough, you're left with, I think, some fairly chunky liability.
I think you're completely right. I think there's going to be a big change to document, and it's going to be a big change in performance management processes, I think. And, you know, I think there are smaller changes, as you say, that won't necessarily be a big deal. So things like notice requirements on parental leave and paternity leave, or paternity leave, I suppose I should say. You know, in reality, people don't tend to give as much as 28 days notice anyway. That can happen almost at the drop of a hat. But making sure people are aware they're allowed to take the leave, even if they've not got 6 months service, is going to be important. Because what happens if someone takes the wrong kind of leave and they've decided to take annual leave? They've realised they've missed out on paternity leave. It could be a small... It was a bit like the flexible working changes when they went from you had 3 months to do the whole process to 2. That minor change, you don't update it, and all of a sudden you just score an own goal because you've not noticed the small stuff.
But again, stuff like that I think is minor. I think there's what you have written down and what you do, and I think most people will do the right thing even if it's not written down correctly. And it's having good administration to make sure it's on top of the policies.
Yeah.
And it's things like the double protective award for the failure to consult properly. Again, the vast majority of people will consult properly in some way, and it's if you are intentionally not consulting in the right way, I think the threat of a double protective award isn't really going to scare you any further.
No, but I think the thing that will be interesting is making sure they've got the establishments correct, because those establishment rules are going to change.
True.
Where it becomes the whole organisation. You're far more likely to trigger collective consultation when you think about any sort of size of business that's
True.
making 20 or more in 90 days, right? If it's the whole organisation, you're going to be collective consulting all the time, which will be costly time consuming, and if you haven't picked up on that change, you're more likely going to get a costly exercise.
But the other thing to layer in with that, so if when you're going through that exercise, because normally we have certainly done exercises where you'd layer in some short service dismissals to ease that obligation on headcount, that because of the 6-month window rather than 2 years, those opportunities for short service dismissals are going to go, and people will find themselves in
collective
a lot more,
and you're going to need to be slicker.
Yes, and I think it's the communication part of that is going to be more effective, because again, we've chatted about this, is that kind of the old we are sadly in our mid-40s. Well, I'm in my mid-40s.
You're further ahead.
I am.
Early, late 30s.
I'm of a better vintage. But it's the piecing around. How does that, be on top of your comms? And I would say that the wriggle room that you once had isn't going to be there.
No. And I think for me, it's, how many redundancy programs do we do where they're all done in a couple of weeks? Now, once you hit collective consultation, you're going to have at least 30 days. That's massively going to impact costs. So you're going to have to be really sharp. So you're going to have to pay them for weeks and weeks more, especially if you're doing this on a regular basis. If you're a business of 1,000 plus, there will not be many, many months that you go by where you're not making some kind of change somewhere in the business. And that's going to have an impact.
No. And it's all the unintended consequences, and it's how things hang together. I do wonder whether it's going to increase the use of settlement agreements as well.
Possibly.
And I would say that we're probably there pretty effectively at this moment in time. I think the other thing I want to chat about as well is the Fair Work Agency.
This is where you see me go.
Yes, and I think I think I went to a session on the National Minimum Wage agency a couple of years ago, and I went, and it was being run by an ex PwC EY person, and I've never seen a room of solicitors so attentive, because they knew what's coming on the horizon with it. And I think this could have a lot more impact, because I think they will actively search to see kind of whether people are making sure teams have taken out annual leave.
It's monitoring compliance, isn't it?
Completely.
Yeah. And they could be poking their nose in your organisation where you don't want them to, and you don't want to get caught out. But it will be interesting to see whether it's things like, so as 0 hours contracts go, and that direction of travel goes, and people who have regular hours, for example, who have the right to request and get regular hours. That is not happening so often with zero contract people. If Fair Work Agency look at that, I think they're going to find lots of opportunity to cause some headaches for employers.
And I think if you sort of fly close to the wind in what you do, and you've not got the team on board, you could find yourself in some serious trouble with everything that's going on. I think I am going doom and gloom in it, but it's the bit where I think that margin that we would give people in the past in terms of saying sort of, here's the law, here's what you should be doing. I think that's going to become a bit beefier, that line between
here's the law.
There is, it's
first rule, comply.
No, and I think that's a big mindset shift for people.
I think it is. It's going to be. It's an interesting time to be in HR, I think, because I feel like this ever since COVID. When we were daily going to Google to check what the latest changes were to furlough or schemes that we were that had to be put in place, and it was like overnight legislation to implement. All of a sudden, HR became, you were getting calls late at night saying, "So what are we doing?" And I feel like this is similar. HR are going to be more needed to make sure we don't fall foul of this stuff.
And I think as well the stuff with the voluntary menopause plans. Like, there is a direction of travel with menopause where it's not a protected characteristic at the minute. Well, it absolutely will be a protected characteristic in the fullness of time. HSE, you're putting more obligations, and I feel the voluntary is almost in speech marks, because I think the question that people will face is that if you aren't doing it, why are you not doing it? I think that's going to be a real kind of pushback, and we'll see that more and more with like the neurodivergent stuff.
Yep.
And I think that kind of there is a direction of travel where people will come under more pressure for that.
Yes, I mean it's going to be good. It's going to be good to be ahead of the curve on that one.
Yes, and I think we've had a couple of issues where menopause has come up in settlements, and there's been a real vibe like you can see the direction of travel within settlements in terms of the indirect sex discrimination.
Yeah,
and it's being used as a real attack line, and I think that will continue, and it's going to get more weight with this as well.
Yep, it's getting more complicated, isn't it?
But that said, I think there is the view of actually it's getting more complicated, but it's learning a new set of rules. So I would kind of, a terrible analogy which you'll probably hate me for is that, you know, you've driven in the UK roads all your life, you move into mainland Europe, it's broadly similar, but there's just more obligation on you. You've got slower speed limits. You can't speed as much as you used to.
Slowing down with that, this just could go in a direction that would be dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean, I think like a lot of protected characteristics, I think the thing that we want to be able to convey to clients is that you don't have to be risk adverse, you have to be risk aware, but also it's as you often say, bend not snap. So, you know, reasonable adjustments, but not necessarily preventing people from running their operations. However, as guidance comes, the things that Fair Work agencies, tribunal clauses, courts will tolerate and won't tolerate, more and more will come out.
Yeah.
So, I think it's going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on. But yeah, I think we're going to be busy.
I think our clients are going to be busy as well, and I think it's the big thing I would say is like be open to the change. It's not, we're not saying you have to like the change, but be open to change, understand what you need to do. Sometimes it's just a case you got to eat what you've got to eat and get on with it. We can't change it.
No.
And it's sadly.
Yeah.
But I think the more you can get your head around that, the quicker you'll get to a good space with it. And also I think there is wriggle room, there is space, but it's also understanding the unintended consequences of what you do as well.
Yeah, and I think things that we're getting good at with us is that we've got templates now, first off. We've got sexual harassment templates, we've got risk assessment templates, we've got letters to meetings, outcome letters to meetings, and we give them to clients. And I think we'll keep working on that because it just makes it just easier for people to have checklists, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think, and the other thing is as it evolves, we'll do more and we'll make sure it's up to speed, and it gives you that sort of crutch to lean on in that time. So no.
Cool. Well done us.
Aren't we good? Well, we'll find out, won't
for
we?
being just about being compliant with what's coming. Thank you for listening. I hope this was useful.
Yes, and as ever, you know where we are. It's info@ezhr.uk, and just Google us, and we're happy to help and give us a shout.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
As solid as it's going to be.